Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another interview in this untitled series of players interviewing themselves, revealing their deepest, darkest secrets. Today, I'm joined by Andrew. My name's Tim, of course, and I'm here to interview my good friend Andrew.
Hello.
How are you, Andrew?
I'm going pretty well. Never been interviewed before, so yeah.
Well, let's see how this goes. Thank you so much for being here today. Let's get started. Tell us a bit about yourself. What have you been up to lately?
What I've been up to lately, I'm currently on holidays from my work just for a week because I had a cheeky trip down the Sunshine Coast, up the Sunshine Coast, I should say. But yeah, outside of that, a bunch of new video games out recently as well. So been cracking into the bit of Baldur's Gate 3, bit of Diablo 4, and back to some old classics as well. What else? A bit of hiking.
So with the hiking, is there anything else that you do outside of, tabletop RPGs and gaming that you like to do for fun? You're a big hiker?
Not a huge hiker. I mean, I like going. It's good to get outside and get away from the computer because I'm a IT professional by trade, and then my hobbies also include playing video games, so a lot of computer time, so it's good to get out every so often and a bit of fitness and a bit of sunshine.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I could say the same. I spend most of my time on a computer as well, and I don't really like hiking. Or I do, but I just don't do it. But anyway. So we're all aware, very aware of the physical specimen that is Wodun. But a lot of people may not know that you used to have a bit of a background in fitness. Tell us about that.
So I went to university straight out of high school and was studying exercise physiology. Really love the content and everything. I'm quite sort of science driven. It sort of just clicks with me, and I found it quite interesting learning about like the human body and nutrition and benefits of exercise and all that sort of thing. But yeah, like I said, I ended up in IT because it just wasn't sort of the career that I wanted to pursue in the end, really. But I don't regret doing it. It was definitely comes in handy these days having that background knowledge. Like if I ever, when I go to the gym or when I work out or anything like that, it's good to have the background there.
And when you say like you like that aspect of it, is it is it because it's like a very simple input-output system? If you do a certain thing, you get a certain result. Is that what you mean, like the predictability of it?
I think I just like the science and anatomy and physiology and that sort of thing. I think that's what sort of drew me to it. It was a bit more, like in IT, everything's very sort of, if you need to do this, here is a guide on how to do that. But with the science, it's kind of like, you eat this or you do this, what's the effect that it's going to have on the body? And everyone's different, and there's a lot of different factors that can impact. Like, so exercise physiology is a lot about rehabilitation and that sort of thing. So you need to sort of work around how people can exercise and do the best you can for who you're working with, sort of thing. So I don't know. I like the variability and yeah, like I said, science just kind of sits with me a lot better than something like business or maths and that sort of thing.
Interesting. Okay. So another thing, I want to hear your opinion on something. I'm yet to hear you speak out on the cultural phenomenon that is Skibidi Toilet. What is your take on Skibidi Toilet, and should we be worried for the future?
Look, I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I have actively avoided Skibidi Toilet. I don't really know anything about it, and I'd like to keep it that way, to be honest. I know we have a few mutual friends who will shed a single tear to hear me say that, but it's just not for me. I don't think seeing those videos does make me worried for the future.
And the view counts that they're able to generate,
it's out of control. I don't understand.
I don't either. Can't even begin to understand. I don't know if that's because I'm too old or I'm just out of touch or both. All right, well, it was a bit of a smash hit when you interviewed me, and also when I interviewed Jen. So I'm gonna hit you with a couple of quick fires, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Prepare yourself. Here we go. And Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Ariel or Jasmine?
Jasmine.
Tent or hotel?
Ooh. Tent.
Sourdough or wheat?
Sourdough.
Snog, marry or avoid?
Avoid.
Are reindeers real?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Avoid.
I don't know.
I'll take that personally. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Let's talk a bit about characters now, and what better place to start than the one and only Wodun himself? So, what was your inspiration for creating Wodun? Like, did you just look in a mirror, or what?
Yeah, pretty much. I just thought I need to get myself out there. I am obviously a perfect specimen. Beautiful flowing hair, bulging muscles, endless confidence. I may as well just play that character because I'm worthy of a story to be told about me.
You are worthy of the story, that's true.
No, to be honest, I pretty much decided that I was going to make Gaston from Beauty and the Beast.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so that was a lot of the inspiration there. But he does, like, appearance aside, he does have a lot of me in him. For example, in the more recent episodes, the fear of the ocean, that's me. I do have a paralyzing fear of deep water and sea monsters that live in the ocean everywhere and are out to get me.
Thalassophobia.
Yep, that's the one. Yep, there is nothing more disgusting to me than seeing those photos of sleeping sperm whales. I don't know what it is about them, but they sleep upright, and it freaks me the hell out.
Because they're just suspended.
Suspended there
in an unclear amont of water.
Yep.
You don't know how far it goes.
I hate it so much, but I also like looking at it, so I will look at the photos and then be like, ugh. I don't know why I do it to myself.
I love it. Ugh. Right. Any other aspects of his personality that you took from yourself?
Yeah, well, actually another... I wanted him to be sort of like a crowbar into the story, so he kind of just says what I want him to do to... Like, I kind of left him open to be a character that I could just do what I wanted in the story and to, like, sort of drive things forward, because, I played a few D&D games in the past where, with very experienced players, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, this room's obviously trapped, so I'm going to check if it traps. And, like, it's a very logical and methodical game. I wanted to bring a swinging beef cliff to the story, so I just wanted a silly character who does and says whatever comes to his head. And there are parts of that I kind of do. Like, I have a really bad habit of giving someone some information that I'm pretty sure is true, but I say it as kind of a fact.
I think most people do that.
Yeah, well, there's some little things like that.
He is very good-natured at his core. You're a good-natured person.
Yeah, I have tried to play sort of evil characters, and it just doesn't come very naturally to me, so I wanted to, for the podcast being recorded, I wanted to play something that I would be able to do well, and I struggle to stay as, like, a straight-down-the-line character. Like, I like playing with a bit of humour and a bit silly.
I get you, absolutely. And because we're doing it for a podcast, obviously you want to make it entertaining, and also you need to keep it not too far from your own personality, otherwise it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Unless you're like an improv god.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of players have had that experience that they've rolled up a character and then they just don't really, click with it or know how to react to as that character in a certain situation. So I wanted to kind of, I guess Wodun sort of has a similar humour to me as well, which is important for my characters.
Absolutely. And speaking of your characters, what's your usual approach to creating a character? Do you usually pick like Gaston, or what do you do?
So I often sort of take like elements from other medias and combine them, or like build ideas out from smaller aspects of of characters or events or
yeah, as opposed to like just copying a whole character.
Yeah. So I sort of like I listen to a lot of other D&D podcasts, and if there's a character that I really like in a podcast, I'm kind of like, oh, I like the idea that that they have this backstory. I like to do a character with that, but maybe have them approach it like this. And also weirdly, I get ideas from listening to music. When I'm doing DM prep and everything, I'll put on sort of the music that I would have playing in the background of a D&D session, and for some reason that kind of like if the music's a particular way, it might make me think of a castle or a knight doing whatever, and I kind of build things from whatever I get prompted with from listening to things or watching things or listening to things.
Interesting.
I already said that. What music did you get for Wodun? Any music? Or was it all just Gaston? No, it was all Gaston.
You were Gaston, okay.
Gaston, baby.
Got you. So what's been your favourite character to make, and what would be your favourite character to play?
Favourite character to make? I don't know. I really like making characters, so I kind of, like think of a character in my head and write it down for future D&D games, and a lot of the ones that have been my favourites to make have just been like silly characters. They probably don't have a whole lot to them, but you'd use them for like a one-shot sort of thing.
Who's been your favourite to play?
I really like the Hexblade. It's the first time I played a Warlock, and I really like the Hexblade because it combines the sort of sword and shield combat with magic. So I like to have a bit of magic utility or a bit of extra something on top of the martial class.
What makes you happy as a player, Andrew?
As a player?
What makes you tick?
Oh,
what do you like to see when you're playing?
I like to see high numbers on the dice, but it doesn't happen to me a lot.
Rip.
So it makes it extra special when it does. No, I like to feel like, you kind of have free reign as a player. I like the no strings. I don't like to be railroaded, and I like to feel like things are sort of open world, even though they might not be. When you have a DM that you feel like you could do whatever and they would be able to react appropriately.
And they're willing to facilitate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like to be able to be confident enough to be able to go out on a limb and have that reciprocated sort of thing.
Got you. Now, much like me, you have dabbled in being a GM yourself, and I've had the pleasure of playing with you both as a player and as a GM. How would you compare your time as a GM versus as a player?
Being a GM is it's different. It's a lot more intense, and I think I take it a lot more seriously than I take a player. Like being a player, I just want to have fun and do stupid things, but being a GM, you want to give the players that good experience, so you're sort of always on and always thinking, and I think we said it in our other interview, but it's very rewarding being a GM.
On a deeper level, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I really enjoy both.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess it's like playing with your nephew versus having a son. Playing with a nephew, it's fun, but but there's not much to it. But then you got to take the kid home. So there you go. GM is the same as being a parenting. You heard it here first.
Yeah, that's it. Just got to put on a show for the kids.
So how would you describe your style of GM? Are you a cruel god or a benevolent one?
Probably say I'm a bit too nice. I've never killed a character, but it's something that I aspire to.
You really need to have a chat with Jen.
Yeah, I know. That's. I listened to the interview, and she sounds brutal. And actually, I've never been GM'd by Jen, so I'd also like to try that because that sounds high risk. I think I need to, and I'm planning a campaign for some friends at the moment, yourself included, and I've decided with this one, I am going to kill a character. I'm going to be trying my best to do some murders. So
come hell or high water, a player will die.
Yeah, I've been too nice in the past, and fun time's over.
I could just imagine when we first sit down, you're like, all right, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Someone's going to die today.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that you just like obviously you don't want to be cruel for cruelty's sake, but you just think it might add a bit more like investment or increase up the stakes a bit, rather than it being, because it can go both ways. I suppose with a really kind and generous GM, it almost feels like you can't go wrong. You're like you're surrounded by cotton wool kind of thing.
Yeah,
are you trying to maybe get rid of a bit of that?
Yeah, and these are, apart from yourself, these are all they're all new players. So this campaign is the only one that they're playing. I don't think I know that none of them have ever lost a character before. So maybe they think that their characters are safe. He's not gonna kill him. Like, he wouldn't put this fight here if we weren't able to beat it, sort of thing.
He loves us.
Yeah, no. They're all going to die.
They're all going to die. I like it. And I think it's an important part of, because it can make the experience that much more rewarding,
Yeah.
If you up the stakes a bit.
Yeah.
So I look forward to definitely not dying. So, it sounds like you've got a lot more lined up, but do you just in general want to do more GMing, or are you just happy with the amount that you do now? Because I think it's fair to say you do a little bit more than me. I think because you do run that, you run a Candlekeep campaign that I'm a player in. I've never gotten to that level of commitment. I just basically done one-shots. So do you want to keep up your current level of output, or what do you think?
I think I'm pretty happy at the moment. So the Candlekeeps are they're pretty much one-shots. They're sort of extended one-shots. But we do have persistent characters in that campaign. This one essentially are independent of each other, so you don't need to keep the same characters, though our current players have. But yeah, I wouldn't mind trying a full-size campaign, but it kind of intimidates me, so I'm starting with a small one, so maybe like 4 or 5 sessions for the one that I'm planning at the moment. So yeah, that'll be a good warm-up for me if I ever decide to run a full campaign. Yeah.
Are you writing the whole thing yourself?
Yes.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
And I'm sort of trying to do it a bit open world, so it's taking me a long time.
Yeah, I mean that's good that you're doing that, and I'm really looking forward to it myself. What makes you happy as a GM? Is it anything different than being a player?
It's kind of the inverse of what I like about being a player. So I want the the players to have the experience that I want, I guess.
I see what you mean.
And
yep.
And I'm aware that some people might be combat focused, some people might like the role play, but I want to essentially be able to reciprocate whatever they want to do. So if they want to do crazy shit and be silly, I want to be able to give that back to them, but if at the same time, if they are really into the combat, I want to make it sort of immersive for them as well. So yeah, I want to be essentially like a sounding board, or basically just to be able to give back to the players what they want. That's sort of what I find rewarding about being a GM, is giving them that immersive experience.
I get you, and you just you want to give them the same experience that you look for as a player.
Yeah.
Right. And so what's one aspect of your style, both as a player and as a GM, that you would like to work on, perhaps?
They're probably both the same for being a GM and being a player, and it's being more descriptive. I kind of will read through a module, or have an image in my head of what I would think that something is going to look like, but then I sort of in the moment either forget to say it, or don't have the words to fully describe what the players would have before them, or me as a player I am actually doing.
Well, it's time for another set of quick fire. Shall we do it?
Yep, go for it.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, here I go. Big dogs or small dogs?
Big dogs.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at wiffle ball?
I don't know what that is, but I'm going to say 9 out of 10.
Ideal ambient temperature?
23 and a half.
Okay.
There you go.
Nuggies or tendies?
Nuggies.
Interesting. Make a high-pitched sound. Nice. Best student in Hufflepuff or worst student in Gryffindor?
Best student in Hufflepuff.
Pineapple and pizza, yes or no?
No,
Oh, okay.
absolutely not.
Okay, that's it's a strong opinion.
Yeah.
Andrew, we'll have a chat later. All right, let's wrap it up. So I want to give you a hypothetical here.
Mm-hmm.
So Wizards of the Coast have given you permission to make one change to the 5th edition Player's Handbook. What are you changing? It could be anything from the wording of a spell to the addition or removal of an entire chapter.
Good question.
Hey, thanks. I learned from the best.
I think I would do something around the way that movement works in combat in D&D. And it probably is reflective of my player and GM style, but I just feel like movement in combat is sort of discouraged, and I feel like wherever you start a fight, you pretty much will end the fight not too far from there. And so whether it's, adding like the 5-foot step rule from the Pathfinder game system, or making attacks of opportunity a bit, I guess nerfing them a little bit so they're not as bad. But I've played sorcerers and things before where you get surrounded by even only like 2 enemies, and if you decide to run away to use some of your spells against them, leaving their threatened squares, you're pretty much like, you're going to go down if you take 2 attacks of opportunity sort of thing. So it can be a bit stifling sometimes. So I think I would change something around there. Maybe the 5-foot step rule is a good option, but
What is the 5-foot step rule? Sorry.
Effectively, I have never actually played Pathfinder, just listened to a bunch of it on podcasts. But my understanding of the rule is that in place of your movement, you can choose to take a 5-foot step where you step 5 feet. It doesn't incur attacks of opportunity, which would sort of, put you out of melee range to be able to cast a spell. But it just means that you can't take a 5-foot step and then run away. It's either it's like a 5-foot disengage,
I see
essentially.
5-foot disengage. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. I mean, because in terms of combat in D&D, it's all kind of time-based in a way. Like, your turn takes approximately 6 seconds, so it all sort of comes down to what you can achieve in 6 seconds, right? So if you're running like 30, 40 feet from one end of a room to another versus, trying to get out of combat, like, you think that it will try and, duck and weave your way out of a fight and then run away. It makes sense, and it'll probably take the same amount of time, right?
Yeah.
If that you know what I mean?
Yeah. And like, if you're a caster or a ranged character and you've got enemies on you, to be able to take that 5-foot step to just not have disadvantage on your attack against the creatures is huge. Like, someone that rolls as bad as I do, I can't have disadvantage because I will never, ever hit.
No. Like, you don't even need disadvantage. Like,
even with advantage for me, it's touch and go.
Yeah. Disadvantage for you is pretty much a death sentence. So.
Yeah.
Can confirm. Interesting. Okay. So to wrap things up, give me 3 pieces of advice for a new player.
For a new player, I would say start small with your first character. Don't give yourself too much on the character sheet to have to worry about, as well as learning the new rules. And that, I guess, that extends to roleplay stuff as well. So I think for me, one of the hardest parts of getting into D&D was doing getting into the role play and understanding that.
It's a very different way of thinking or playing.
Yeah. And so even just starting small, as in even in your own normal voice, describing what your player would say, if you're not comfortable doing voices and stuff like that. So just start small, start with what you're comfortable with. So that's, I guess, one piece of advice. 2 would be, when you're making a character, I'd probably start with one fairly aligned to your personality, like I was saying about Wodun for me before. Yep. It's just easier to role play and do that character.
Absolutely.
And you get a bit more, I guess, attached to them as well.
Especially if you're new to role playing.
Yeah.
Thinking in putting yourself in someone else's shoes is quite unusual, yeah.
Yeah. Third thing would be, I guess, read the rules. Because there's a lot of them.
Do a little bit of homework.
Yeah, a bit of homework.
What about for young Andrew? Would you give yourself the same 3 pieces of advice? You know, if you go back 3 years to your first session that you sat down to?
My first session was actually many, many years ago, and it sort of only went for about an hour, maybe 2 hours, but until that point, I had never even heard of D&D. So for young Andrew, wow. I would probably explain to him the concept of it, because, you know, the GM sat down and was like, okay, so this is he read out the prologue to the adventure. You know, we're in this, I think it was like an alleyway. We had 2 enemies in front of us, and he was like, what do you want to do? And I just didn't understand at the time that you can do whatever you want.
You used the rules, yeah.
I just couldn't grasp the fact that you can do anything.
Interesting.
So I would probably just explain to myself that.
Okay. You can do what you like, but you have to think about it differently to traditional games.
Yeah.
You really it really is role playing.
Yeah.
You know,
it's not a board game. Like you just do what you want, and then the rules sort of the GM sort of does the rules for you.
And they facilitate it.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I think that's all we have time for.
Right.
Andrew, thank you for joining me.
Hey, thank you for joining me.
Anytime. And I'll see you later.
Catcha.
Boy.